alone in the streets with no family to call. And that's where my journey began. Just being on a Hollywood movie set, period, was amazing for someone like me. I was tripping where it was womanizing, gambler, became an alcoholic. You don't want to hurt who you really love. And that's how God keeps your life straight. But you could go in a dark closet, you could go in a room by yourself. You can't hide it from God.
You make a mistake, you get walked into a room by your best friend, you don't walk out again.
When you have revenge in your heart, you might as well dig two graves, one for you, one for them.
Some people want more than what they got when they already have enough. And all these different things can kill you at the end of the day.
What's going on, you guys? Welcome to another episode of the Millennials Choice show. I'm your host, Matthew Ablakan, and I'm here with my brother from the same mother, Danny.
What's going on, everyone?
Guys, we got an awesome episode today. Low key, I'm a fan, and it turns out all these guys we're interviewing, we've been fans of theirs, and we got a big one today for you guys. This one goes way back. Fast and the Furious 1 days.
Oh, yeah.
Goes way back. And I want to introduce you guys to Noel G. Welcome to the show. What's going on, Noel?
What up, fellas? How you guys doing, man? It's good to be with you guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. That's what's up. It's all love, man. I wish we could be in person, but I get it, though. You know what I'm saying? So, but no, it's all love, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're pumped, man. I can't wait for this one.
Pumped. I feel like I'm going to ask you 101 questions.
The pressure.
Yeah.
You got crazy fans here, so
you got fans, bro. I know it's not just business today. You got some fans. We got you on the t-shirt. We're ready to go, and we want to hear more.
It's classic, bro. It's classic.
I love it. And yeah, we definitely got to do it in person one of these days. But we're so grateful for having you come on, spending some time with us. We want to hear about your story. We're just facilitators. And let's see where it goes. Just a conversation amongst three men. Okay, Noel, start us from the very beginning. We want to hear about your story, your upbringing, your background. Take it away.
Yeah. No, first and foremost, once again, thank you for having me. My story is a little different. And the reason why I say it's a little bit different is because my parents were the only two from their families to move to the United States. So I never in my life met my mom's side of the family or my dad's side of the family. So I literally got no cousins, brothers, sisters, nephew, nieces, uncle, aunt, grandma, grandpa, nothing. I got no family. The only family that I have is my daughter now and my two sons. But, again, I never met my mom or my dad's side of the family. So, growing up, it was interesting because I had no fam. And up to the age of 13 years old, everything was straight. Lived in a middle-class home. We weren't poor. We were middle class. We had a nice 3-bedroom house. My dad had a good job. I had my own room. I had clothes in my room, toys in my room. Everything was straight. I was fed every day. I was taken care of. But, my dad, he was a miserable guy. He hated his life. His life was work, television, hated his life. And he wasn't the happiest camper, you know what I'm saying? And my dad, he worked in a good company, and the guy who owned the company was a multi-millionaire. And one day, this guy, because my dad's hobby on the side, he was a scuba diver, he was a fisherman. And one day, this guy who owned the company, as Disneyland as this sounds, as there's no fairy tale, I can't even make this stuff up, but the guy owned a yacht. And he asked my dad, he said, you want to go selling around with me on the world? You want to go sell around the world with me on this boat? But he said, if you come with me, you can't bring your kid with you. So I kid you not, like black and white to kind of cut out some of the fat, get straight to the bone. My dad came home one day. I was 13 years old. And he just said, I'm going on this boat to go sell around the world. I'm packing everything up. I'm leaving. I'm selling the house. And I'm gone. And I call it the 2 weeks of hell because my mom, I don't blame my mom for anything because my mom fought tooth and nail trying to keep my dad there, saying, what kind of man have you become? What's wrong with you? What are you thinking? What are you doing? And I saw physically, heard her physically. I was right there in the middle of the action when my mom was fighting tooth and nail to keep my dad from leaving. My mom was crying. She was torn up, and she did everything in her power to get my dad to not leave, saying, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? Blah, blah, blah. But fast forward, I remember I was 13. I went to my mom and I said, Mom, I said, don't worry about it. I got a friend that I'm going to go live with. But I really did it, though. I did it to give her peace of mind, because the bottom line is, if my mom would have stayed with me, it would have been 2 homeless people instead of 1, because my dad was the breadwinner. My mom didn't make no money. So anyways, to cut the story short, what ended up happening was within 2 weeks, my house was sold, everything was packed, and my dad and my mom left. Again, I never blame my mom, love my mom to death. And I went from a middle-class home, toys in my room, food on the table, clothes on my back. Within 2 weeks, I went from all that to nothing but the clothes on my back. My dad gave me $500. He pretty much said, good luck. Alone in the streets with no family to call. And that's where my journey began. And so, that's just a rough cut of what happened. So for 2 years, I was wilding out. My only thoughts were, how am I going to live? How am I going to eat? What am I going to do? I started hanging out with the wrong crowd, started stealing cars, robbing houses, gangbanging, selling drugs, started doing all kinds of bad things. I did the couch tour. I went from friend's house to friend's house to friend's house. But let's be honest, though. If you're not paying the bills at someone's house, your welcome is going to run out eventually. So I was sleeping in laundromats. I was sleeping in donut stores. And when I was 15, this girl asked me one day, I was dating this girl, and I never forget, like it was yesterday. She asked me one day, she said, how come you always wear the same clothes, or I never seen where you live? And I ain't going to lie. I broke down. I started crying. I told her straight up. I said, I'm homeless. What you see is what you get. And just so you guys know, you can interrupt me at any time.
Please, go ahead.
I'm just so zoned in right now. I can't even wow.
Oh, yeah. I was like, I'll just keep on going until interrupted, right? But I'll find an ending there. So what ended up happening was this girl, like I said, she said, how come you wear the same clothes? I never seen where you live. And I ain't going to front. I'm just keeping it 100. I was 15 years old. I broke down. I started crying. I told her straight up, I'm homeless. This is what it is, what it's been. And I never forget, her dad heard my story and said, hey, you can live in this house. But the difference was with this house, as I've lived in many houses before that temporarily, as I was there for a while, then kicked out because I had no money and I couldn't pay bills. And, I was there for a short time. Or some people just, it was what it was, got sick of me and said, all right, you're gone now. The difference was with this house, the dad was a pastor for a church. And so he said, in this house, we serve the Lord. And he goes, I just have one request. He goes, if you're going to live here, he goes, you got to hear the word of God. All I ask of you is to go to church and go to Bible study. I didn't care if he was Muslim, Church of Scientology, Illuminati. All I wanted at the time was a roof over my head. I was 15. I could care what he was. I just want a roof over my head and a place to stay and a place to eat. I care less what you are. Let's go, right? And it was the first time ever that I seen a family living in order, living, no one's ever perfect, but it was the first time I saw love in a family, structure in a family, order in a family. And I was, going to church. I was going to Bible study. The seed of God was planted inside of me. So to fast forward on how the acting got started, just to be clear, the girl that I was living with, it was her dream to be an actress, model, and the whole Hollywood deal. I never thought about it a day in my life. I was running the streets wilding out. all I was thinking about was eating and surviving. Where am I going to sleep and, things like that. I never thought about acting a day in my life, let alone I never thought someone like me could even be on TV or was privileged enough to be on TV. And one day she asked me, she said, you want to go to this acting class with me? And I was like, yeah, I'll roll with you, whatever. And it was crazy because she was the one with the dreams of being an actress, model, and the whole Hollywood deal. And the reason why I went with her is because I always thought that if I got her mad, she would have me kicked out of the house. So I pretty much did whatever she said at the time. You know what I'm saying? So I went with her to this acting class. And straight up, to win the lottery, you either got to be Mexican or 80 years old, close to death, right? No, I'm just kidding. But it's always someone who's 75 years old who just wins $15 million.
Always, true. Always.
But what ended up happening was I was in this acting class, literally right place, right time. Never thought about acting a day in my life. I was acting a fool because I'm just keeping it honest. I was running the streets at the time, and I thought everybody in the class was dorks and nerds. So I started talking mess. Right place, right time. I started acting a class clown. I kid you not. It was right place, right time. It's the only way I could say it. That's how it happened, literally. There was a producer who was sitting in class that day and was scouting talent. And he comes up to me after the class and he goes, hey, you're funny, man. You want to be in a Taco Bell commercial? And I said, oh, because I'm Mexican. Oh, what's up? Oh, so I thought he was on some BS. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, he ain't whatever. It's another fake one, like whatever. So I gave him my number, whatever. He ended up being real. 2 weeks later, never thought about acting a day in my life. I ended up doing a commercial at the age of 15 years old for Taco Bell. First thing I ever did in my life. And I didn't know at the time about residual income. I was ignorant to residual income at that time because I was 15. I didn't know anything about that. I thought it was like you got to work to get paid, work to get paid, work to get paid. So for those of you who don't know what residual income is, just for the interview, is residual income is every time they show the commercial, you get a check. So literally, if they show the commercial 15 times in one day, that's 15 checks. I thought it was a computer mess up. You know what I'm saying? I thought the computer jacked up or something. So I started getting all these checks. And I was like, what? Like they were paying me. And I literally thought that I was breaking the law when I was cashing these checks. But I had my story for court. I was going to be like, they were paying me and I didn't know. So I was cashing them. I just want to be a good citizen, right? Do my part for the community, No, I'm just playing.
Cashing those checks.
Cashing those checks.
Paying them tax dollars.
Pretty much. So it started getting a little bit weird because I was getting paid up to a year for 1 day's work. So I went from pretty much nothing to bling bling overnight. And I was tripping. And I remember I called the producer and I said, hey, why I keep on getting paid for this commercial? I go, I did this commercial and I keep on getting paid. And he goes, no. That's how you get paid. I said, what? I said, well, I want to be an actor. If that's how you get broken off, you know what I mean? And that's how the acting journey got started. So what I can honestly say is when I first got into acting, yeah, I got into it for money because I never made that much money that quick. And it was all about the money at first. But as I started doing it, it became a true passion of mine because I think we have one of the funnest jobs in the world as actors. It's never the same thing. We always get to travel. We meet different people. So as I could say, as I started doing it more and more and more, I started having a true love / passion for it. And the money just became a bonus. And so, I remember the producer when I called him up and I said, hey, I want to do this as a living or whatever. He goes, man, I like you. He goes, I got a manager friend who manages people. And he goes, I'm going to make the introduction. I said, all right, cool. So I go meet this manager guy and I come in like this, I don't know nothing from nothing. I come in banged out, whatever, streeted out. And the guy was like, man, I like you. I'm going to do some things for you. I said, all right, cool. So next thing I know, this guy starts calling me up. And when he's sending me out for interviews, everything he's sending me out for is Gangster 1, Cholo 2, Trigger. I'm like, what? I thought I was here to act, man. I grew up like this in real life. And so I started developing this relationship as the bad guy Latino in Hollywood. And that's where the journey started and began. And I started wilding out. But I'm going to shut up at this moment, let you guys chime in a little bit. But that's kind of where I was at, to where I got started in acting. And then a whole new journey of my life began. You got to remember, if you don't give a Mexican a mic, we'll talk.
You just have such a powerful story, man. And like, for everyone that's listening to this, like, it just goes to show, like, no matter what you're going through in life and how like low you can get, right? Because of things outside of your control, there's always a way to bounce back and come back even harder than ever. So, wow, I'm so amazed right now.
I love hearing all of that stuff. And for me, it's like knowing the rest of your story, you could totally see like God's hand at work there, setting you up for what's to come. And it's like right place at the right time, but also you said yes to that opportunity to go there, and you met that girl, and she happened to be part of, you know, a Christian family and stuff like that, which was just amazing. Like, I feel like even a film producer couldn't even write it like that if they wanted to, like, and think of every little point and every little detail. So of those chain of events that led you to that. So amazing. From Taco Bell to Fast and Furious, Training Day, Walking Dead. I have a whole Mayans MC, to so many different, like, if not hundreds of different films and shows that you've done. So that's amazing. I just want to unpack a little bit about the childhood, about what your dad did and decided to do, and then your mom. You know, you said that at one point in your story, you were sleeping like in the house that you grew up in, but now it was naked and you didn't have furniture in there. And I guess it was for sale. So they were trying to show it to different buyers and things like that. So just a realtor tip on the side. This is why you always carry bear spray or pepper spray. You never know who's in the home. If the home is vacant, you got to have some sort of defense. No offense, but you got to have something. But talk to us about, like, what was that experience? Like, what was going through your mind as, like, damn, this is the house we grew up in, and now it's like it's being taken away from me. Like, were you like angry at God, angry at your dad? Obviously, there had to be certain emotions you were going through, right?
Yeah. You know, I wasn't angry at God because I didn't know God at the time. And so I was just angry at my dad. I had so much hate, you know, inside of me, and frustration. And, you know, I ain't gonna lie, I'm not gonna front, you know, I'm being real. Like, I was crying. I was like, you know, why did they leave me? What happened? And, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Why did this happen to me? And, you know, all those things. But the crazy part was, you know, the house, when he took everything out, a house that I grew up in for many years of my life, at one point had nothing but carpet in it. It was the house I was in. But at the time when my parents were there, I was always sneaking out of the house through the sliding glass door in the bathroom window, because I used to go toilet paper and go egg cars at night with my friends. And I used to go do things like that. And so I knew how to get in and out of the house. So when my parents left me, I didn't know where I was going to go or what I was going to do or where I was going to sleep. But I remember that I always knew how to get back into the house. And it was funny because I was sneaking into my own home that I grew up in with nothing but carpet now. And there was literally like a for sale sign on the, you know, on the front lawn. And I was like sleeping in my room on the carpet. And I remember I was doing that for about, I don't know, I can't be exact, but maybe 2 to 3 months. And this is how I knew I had to get the heck out, and like where the real journey began. I remember I went in the house one day and there was a phone that was connected in the kitchen. And I remember I didn't put it there, you know, and I pick up the phone and there was a dial tone. And I said, crap, people live here now. Or they're about to move in. And that's when I knew, like, can't stay here no more. this ticket has ended. And so at that time, I was going to a continuation school, and that's where I was hanging out with a lot of the thugs from the streets. And they took me and his family. And what were we doing? We were hanging out all night, talking about till 6, 7 a.m. daylight, in the middle of the streets, selling drugs. And they started teaching me the hustle of how to rob cars. First, it started off, because it always starts small and then it escalates. We would just walk down the street and we would just look in cars. If there was a bag, smash the window, grab it, next car. And then we would see what we got later. Take the change out of the ashtray. Sometimes we find money in the cars. Sometimes we find, purses in the cars or bags in the cars, stuff that people left. That's why people watching this interview, never leave anything in plain eye view. You never know who sees it, smash the window, wants to take it real quick. We did stuff like that. Then it escalated from there. Then we started stealing cars. Then we started robbing houses. And then we did other types of stuff, and it just got bigger and bigger. The crimes are always, how much can we make more? So I did a lot of that stuff. So I was really going through a tornado at the time, mad at the world, angry kid. I had a lot of thoughts that were running through my head. Hated my dad, was thinking about just beating him up if I see him, or, taking him out. Like, it was just all kinds of stuff that was going through my head, to be honest. But my main thing, to be honest, was how am I going to eat and where am I going to sleep? That was what ran through my head a lot. And there was a lot of times, too, where, when I didn't have a place to stay, I slept in the laundromats and the donut stores. There were times that I even broke into cars just to sleep in their back seat. And I would get out, stuff like that. So I did a lot of, I'm not saying I was the craziest in the streets. I'm not saying none of that. But I'm just saying, been there, done that, did a lot of crazy stuff. Stuff that, I look back to this day where I'm like, damn, I wasn't all there, But yeah, I don't know. That was pretty much the emotional roller coaster that was going through my head. But I couldn't be mad at God yet, because I never heard of God or really got into God until the age of 15 to know God and be mad at him. I wasn't even thinking him at the time. It was at 15 when I started learning the word of Jesus Christ and learning about God. And that's where he started entering my life. You know what I mean? But I was never mad at him for anything, to be honest, even when I got to know him.
And I was just going to ask you real quick. So all the things that you were doing, like breaking into cars, and was it just as a means of survival? Like you were just trying to pretty much, get money into your pocket so you can live and eat, pretty much, right?
100%. That's all it was about. It was just about trying to find what's in the car that we could sell to someone else, to make money, to go eat and buy drink and buy more drugs and stuff like that. It was all just a vicious rotating circle cycle where we were just, and then, we were getting a lot of money too to, buy clothes, look fresh, stuff like that. I would shower at the beach. I would shower in gyms. That's where I would shower. So I had a really up and down life roller coaster but I like the journey because I met so many people and wilded out and had a bunch of fun also as well. When you're living the street life, you are having fun because you're with your boys, they take you in as family, and you feel like there's a structure. You feel like that, but it's a fake structure that's destructive to your life later down the road.
Yeah, I like that. I like what you just said there. It's a fake structure, because when we interview a lot of these mob guys, former mob guys, and Michael Francis, you're on his show, and his story, of course, and it's like they all say the same thing. When it came down to it, it's like treachery. There's a lot of behind the scenes backstabbing, and you murder your own friend, or your friend murders you, and all these things. And it's like that's the message they're trying to get across to a lot of the youth these days. It might look cool. You might feel like you're having fun, or it's pleasurable. It's good to your physical body and your senses, but really you're going down a very dark path. And whatever that could be, it could be sex, it could be looking fresh all the time, and that becomes your idol now, the possessions, and you want the best of everything and the newest of everything to show off or look good in front of people. And so I love that what you're saying, that it was a completely false structure or sense of belonging or sense of true pleasure and joy, really.
Yeah, the reason why I was smiling just a little bit is because it's so funny. You hit a note. Like when you hear Michael Francese's story and him being one of the real Goodfellas from the most famous classic movie Goodfellas with Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro. It's so funny because I was in there interviewing with him, and I would say things like, you know what we used to say in the streets? I'd be like, if you're gonna steal one Snicker bar, you might as well steal the whole box. Because if you're going to get caught, you're going to get caught. And Michael Francis would be like, you know what we used to say in the streets? If you're going to steal $1 million, you might as well steal $1 billion. But it just showed the amplification of how much more gangster Michael Francis was compared to street-minded gangsters. And so I was just laughing my butt off because everything I would say would be like, I'd be like, you know, we used to steal cars, you know, whatever. And he'd be like, well, you know what we used to say? If you're going to steal one car, steal the whole car lot. Like, who thinks like that? You know what I mean? He's like, pull
Levels.
up in 10 trucks and put them all in there. And I was like, he's like,
gosh.
you're going to do the same amount of time for either or. And I was like, all right, Mike, you got me, bro. I can't argue with that. So anyways, it was just funny because when you were saying that, I was thinking that right there. I just remember that. So I was like, dude, everything I said was small-minded compared to his like big-minded, real gangster, like, you know what I mean? But it's just funny. It's just,
and even him now coming out and saying, should have never done that, should have never went down that path.
Yeah, you know what it is?
Right?
It's you know, when you live and learn, right? I mean, life is a lesson as you go on, and at the time, you do things at the time that just seem or are natural to you or become natural to you until you get hit upside the head to realize, you know, for me, my wake-up call was I was facing 15, I did 4 years, and then I was facing 15 years to life for attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon. And that was my wake-up call. That's when I realized enough was enough. And that's what kind of hit me and really stopped me in my tracks, to be honest. That's where I said, you know, I don't, this is how I say it. I'd rather be a nerd and a dork with freedom and a family than a tough guy in a two-man cell. So if I'm a nerd and a dork, because I want freedom and a family, I'd rather be that than a tough guy in a two-man cell. So at the end of the day, I don't care how tough you are, how tatted up you are. No one wants to be in prison having someone else telling them when they can and can't do what they can do. And that's where enough was enough. And I started realizing I need to make some changes in my life. And acting in a way is what saved me. You know, because when I did Fast and the Furious, that's when I made my first biggest, fattest check where I no longer had to work an 9 to 5. You know, before Fast and the Furious, I worked at Olive Garden, I worked at Denny's, I worked at Walmart, I worked at Kmart, I worked at Burger King. You know, I worked at a KB Toy Stores, Toys R Us. I worked at a pizza place called Pizza Mania. It was an independent pizza place. I was delivering pizzas. I did a lot of 9 to 5 jobs before I was able to make a living off of acting. But what happened was acting amplified my sin life into a whole nother direction with sin. It took away my sin life of having to steal and rob and, you know, do these kind of things and sell drugs, etc. Because now I had so much money where I didn't need to do a crime anymore. I'll tell you one real wake-up call that I had of what really showed me in life, like, wow, this is how life is. So when I had the 9 to 5 jobs, I went to the same bank for 8 years. The same bank for 8 years, depositing my check, right? All of a sudden, I do Fast and the Furious, get my biggest, fattest check. I never forget. I go to the bank, same bank for 8 years, 9 to 5 jobs, deposit check, same way, same day, same thing, every single time for 8 years straight. I do Fast and the Furious. I go to deposit my check. Never forget this like it was yesterday. The lady at the window goes, "Do you have a financial advisor?" I said, "No." He goes, "You should go in the back and you should talk to a financial advisor." I go, "Okay, cool." So I go to the back. The manager of the bank comes over and says, "Hey, I'm the manager. Just like to introduce myself. My name is such and such. I just want you to know anything that you need here, we can do and provide for you." Goes, "As a matter of fact, this is the assistant manager." And I met like 3 or 4 different people. They give me the information and they give me this whole spiel for like 20 to 30 minutes, right? And I remember sitting there and I go, "You guys are funny." I go, "You know, I've been coming to this bank for 8 years and not once have any of you come out to introduce yourself and say hello." And I go, "Now I'm depositing a fat check. And now all you guys want to come out the woodworks and say, 'Hey, how you doing?' Introduce yourself and be friendly." And I'm sorry, but I go, "F all of you guys." I go, "You guys are fake." I go, "If you guys would have been like this before from the 8 years, I might have messed with you, but you just showed me how fake all you guys are and your true colors." I go, "Deposit my money and get me the hell out of here."
That's it, man. And keep it 100 for sure.
And I remember, dude, I remember when I left the bank, I was like, "Oh, this is how life is."
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I just thought
crazy,
that was funny.
Man.
So, you know, in life, it showed me something. No matter where people are at in their life, treat everybody the same. You know, I don't care if you're the guy who washes windows or the guy who owns the building of the windows. Treat everybody the same. And you know, it's about respect. But what it was crazy was when I made that much money, Fast and the Furious, I'll be real, I never stole again a day of my life because I had so much money now that I could pay for things. I felt so guilty, I couldn't even steal a pack of 25-cent gum or the Snicker bar anymore because now I had the money to pay for it. So I never, ever stole again ever since 2001. But I'll be real, before 2001, I was the biggest thief in the world because I didn't have money like that. And I was used to stealing, and I used to steal a lot. And then when I did Fast and the Furious, it stopped it like that. Like literally a light switch, black and white, on and off. I never stole again a day of my life because I felt so guilty stealing because now I had the money to be able to afford things. And I couldn't even steal a Snicker bar, a pack of gum. And so it's crazy how life experiences really change you, you know, really, really genuinely change you. And I always tell people it's interesting, you know, when someone tells me about a life experience, I always ask them, where did the change come from? Because if they didn't have that real light bulb moment, the change never really happened. Or it's the experience that changes you. You get what I'm saying? Or sometimes by hearing things and, you know, but it has to start somewhere. Even if it wasn't an experience, you know, hey, I listened to this guy on this podcast and I never really thought that way before, but after hearing them, now I think this way. So, you know, it's just life teaches you once again and gives you wisdom as you move on. And I've been very blessed in my life to be around a lot of successful people and be able to learn a lot of different things. But what the money did do was it put me in a different type of sin life, because when Fast and the Furious happened, I made so much money, and now, quote unquote, I had the fame, I had the time off, I had the money, and I had the connections to party like a rock star. And that's exactly what I did. I partied like a rock star for 20 years of my life. My life went in a whole different direction of a whole new sin life where it was womanizing. It was, you know, acting a fool and wilding out. casinos. Started going to casinos. I became a big time gambler, became an alcoholic, started smoking a lot of weed. I started doing a lot of different things that I wasn't able to do because I didn't have the money at the time to be able to do them. And it took me on a whole different path. And my life was like that for 20 years. But I'll shut up. I'll let you guys chime in because, again, I don't like to, like I said, don't give me a mic. I'll keep on going, bro. I'm like the Energizer Bunny. I'll keep it going.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I love it. I love hearing the story, but I just wanted to jump in real quick.
You'd be like, later on, you'd be in the podcast like, damn, did we ask a question?
No, I forgot we were on the podcast. I'm just like listening right here.
This. I wanted to ask, so you had this hard life, right? Like in terms of, you were on the streets, right? You were thugging, you were doing your thing. When you went on the cast of Fast and Furious, like, how was that? Because you were actually hard in real life. Like, that wasn't an act. So when you were Hector in Fast and Furious, it helped you, in terms of your experiences, bringing that into the movie. Now, when you're around people like Vin Diesel and like Paul Walker, like, can you talk to us? Like, how was that experience for you, considering your history?
You gotta remember, it was kind of funny, Paul Walker and Vin Diesel were famous already. But what I'm saying is that's the movie that really put them on the map. So at the time, when we did that movie, it was actually considered kind of like a quote unquote independent movie. They didn't really know what it was going to do. But just being on a Hollywood movie set, period, was amazing for someone like me, because I didn't think or feel that I was worthy enough to even be on a movie set because of the life that I have lived. So it was really crazy being in a movie because I was like, damn, like they really want me? Like, did you get this right? And it was insane because I was thinking all the time, like, I can't believe I'm here with these people. And it taught me a lot of things, like I started learning how to communicate with different people, because before Hollywood, quote unquote, kicked off for me, I didn't really know how to communicate with other people. The only people that I had an education with or felt that I was worthy enough of talking to or knew how to talk to was just gangsters. If you weren't a gangster, I didn't even think I could have a conversation with you. But as I started getting into Hollywood, it taught me how to talk to people from all kinds of different races, all kinds of different backgrounds, all type of different beliefs. And I started learning how to conversate with different people other than just street people. So it really changed my life in a lot of ways. And being on the movie sets at first, I was like, I can't believe I'm here. Like, this is happening. Like, oh my God, this is real. But as it started becoming a part of life, it just became a lifestyle. And then it was like, whatever. But there is one movie star that I would geek out over if I was ever to work with him. He's on my bucket list items. I've been very blessed to work with a lot of bucket list stars. I worked with Mel Gibson, Clint Eastwood, Denzel Washington, Jim Carrey. I've been very blessed to even Robert De Niro. I worked with him. I've been very, very blessed to work with a lot of A-list actors in my career / life. But what's crazy though, so now it's like whatever, just to be honest, people are people. So now when I'm there, it's like, we're filming a movie. It's still exciting. I still love it, but I'm just saying it's become part of the lifestyle. So it becomes like, I'm going, like, you'll never hear an actor say, I'm going to go act. It's, I'm going to work. So what I'm saying, it's just become work, if that makes sense, right? But there is one star I would geek out over if I was ever to work with him. One star where I might be like, oh my God, I can't believe he's here, is Al Pacino. I want to get a movie in with Al Pacino.
Classic, man.
Yeah, that's fair.
If I do a movie with Al Pacino, I'll go back to those dorky days and dorky moments of like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm right here with Al Pacino. But
I gotta ask you. I gotta just jump in because I keep hearing
go chime in whenever, because chime in whenever, because like I said, I'll keep on going, bro. So jump in whenever.
The whole Fast and the Furious thing, like when you're saying like that, really like, whoa, like you stopped stealing, right? Like that was a big part of your life and you stopped. How much did you actually make?
It's funny. I get asked that question a lot, and I just got to keep it 100. I made enough to never work a 9-to-5 job again. ever since Fast and the Furious, I've been very blessed once again. From that day, 2001, Fast and the Furious, I've been very blessed. I haven't worked a 9-to-5 job since. But, you know, Mike Tyson made a very famous comment. And one of Mike Tyson's very famous comments was rich too soon, smart too late. And that's what happened to me. I made so much money that I was the one wilding out. I was the one at the club with the bottles and the girls. I was getting a limo every other week. I was spending my money very foolishly and stupidly. I didn't know how to invest. So I lost a lot of money. I went through millions, you know, when I was younger, and I lost a lot of it. But as I got older, and again, wisdom and time, and I started meeting successful people that started guiding me and telling me how I should invest, what I should and shouldn't do, I started becoming more wise. And now I'm being very, I'm just saying, as smart as I can with how I spend my money, where I spend my money, and on, you know, what I need to spend my money on. And, you know, I've learned a lesson in that. I tell people, never live above your means. You know, the reason why a lot of people are stressing out, it's like the golden rule. When people don't have money, they got to act like they have money because they don't have it. When people got money, they don't got to act like they got money because they got money. And so, you know, you know the difference, you know what I'm saying? And so I always tell people the reason why they put stress on themselves is because a lot of people like to live above their means, and they give themselves all these bills that they can't really afford. And now they're stressed out because they're trying to keep up. And so that will, you know, cause a mental stress and an unhealthy, you know, thing. Like for you, it could cause you to be unhealthy, and it could cause all kinds, because stress brings unhealth. You know what I mean? So I just stress could cause sickness and all kinds of different things. And so I tell people, you know, stop trying to show off. And true success is not all the money and the cars and the size of your house. True success is in your heart and in your mind first. I tell people there's so many people that have everything and really have nothing because they don't have peace of mind. You go to stores, for example, and if you go to like Walmart or Target or whatever, and you look at a lot of the magazines when you go up to pay, and if you look at, there's people who are multimillionaires, have everything a person could want, and their lives are destroyed because of pornography. I'm too fat, I'm too skinny, you know, just all kinds of different things that are ruining these people's lives. And it's because they don't have peace of mind, and they don't have a relationship with God. Some of them don't know their true identity. Some people want more than what they got when they already have enough. And all these different things can kill you at the end of the day. So those are lessons that I've learned in life. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know, bro. Go ahead.
So let's jump into that. So you mentioned a good thing about like identity, and right now there's so much talk about different things, gender identity and politics and woke culture and all that. So what, from your worldview and your perspective, in terms of identity, what message would you want to give to the youth, younger kids growing up, younger generations that are kind of growing up in this society in North America and just saying, I don't know who I am. You know, obviously it's a godless society. They've tried to remove God from everywhere. And like, from your worldview, like what message do you have for that kid that really is lost?
Well, you know, to be honest is, I let people know that their dream can become a reality, but it's not going to be handed to them. They're going to have to fight for that dream. It took me 8 years to get my first movie. It was no walk in the park. And I always think about if I would have quitted on that 7th year, if I would have said, it's too hard, it's not going to happen, I'm throwing in the towel, I give up, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. It took 8 years to get my first movie. So I let kids know not to give up, not to quit, to persist until they succeed, to take risks. I worked in a convalescent home when I was about 20 years old. And I never forget, they did a survey. And the survey was, they asked everybody over 65 years old, if you could go back and change something about your life, what would you have done differently? And over 83% of the people that were there in the convalescent home, over 65 years old, said they would have took more risks and more challenges in their life. Because now they're 65 and older wondering, could have I owned that business? Could have I became that doctor? Could have I started that clothing line? Could have I become that actor/actress I wanted to be? Could have I became that singer? You got to take risks and you got to take challenges in life. But see, I don't like the quote unquote cliche. This is just for me, of people when they say, don't give up, don't quit. Okay, cool. But tell us how not to give up and how not to quit. And I tell people that the way you don't give up and don't quit is by being a person of integrity. I've always learned in life, if you're one of these people where you say, I'm sorry I'm late. I'm sorry I forgot to do that email for you. I'm sorry I didn't get time to edit that video for you. I'm sorry I forgot to get that microphone we needed for this podcast. You know what ends up happening? You just become a sorry worker. And nobody wants to work with sorry workers. You can't be a problem. You got to be a problem solver. And so I teach people, if you're a person of integrity and you're someone who says and does, that's how you win favor in life. And when you win favor in life, people just want to do favors for you. And that's how you escalate in life, because you become someone who they can trust. And when you can be trusted and people just like you, they just want to do favors for you. And that's how you escalate in a position. That's how you escalate in life, because you have become someone of integrity, someone that I can trust, someone who's not a sorry worker, always having an excuse. Be sociable. Learn how to communicate with people. Learn how to talk. And I always tell people this also. If you do not see yourself being successful, you will never be successful, because you don't see it in yourself. If you don't see it in yourself, how could someone else see it in you for you? If you don't see yourself owning a business, you'll never own a business. If you don't see yourself having a successful podcast, you'll never have a successful podcast. If you don't see yourself starting a clothing line, you'll never start a clothing line. You got to see it. And that dream to become a reality, it might take 10 years, 15 years. But I promise you, if you never quit, you never give up, your dream can become a reality. But you're going to have to fight for that dream to become a reality, because now the society is becoming more harder and harder and harder. It's not going to be handed to you. And the problem is, so many people will quit on their dream and they'll blame everybody else but themselves, and they're the ones who quit. And so that's why I tell the young people, man, you got people around you, teachers, counselors, business people, whoever you got around you that has wisdom. Ask questions. You know why? Because the stupidest question is the one that you do not ask. If you don't know something, ask. And that's why you have people around you that you can ask. But also, be sure who you're getting your wisdom from. And that's a whole nother can of worms. And I could go on and on and on. But I always try to tell kids, that's how you don't give up. That's how you don't quit in life. I'll tell you the 3 reasons why people fail in life, bottom line, period. The 3 reasons why people fail in life is no plan, no commitment to the plan, lose focus and move too slow. So you got to have a plan. You got to be committed to the plan, and you got to move fast, and you can never lose focus. That's how you succeed in life. And
I'm pumped.
Dude, this wisdom is like amazing.
That's what I share with the kids. And then I say this last thing. This is the reason why we need God in our life. Because we do it on his strength, not our own strength. God is your power source. And what you have to understand is when you're connected to the power source, it's always going to keep you energized. That's why I let people know a lot of us want to be the tough guy, want to do it on our own, but you can't do it on your own. That's why a lot of people fail in life, is because they're always trying to do it on their own. A lot of people are like, oh man, I want to get to the top because I don't need anybody's help. The number one key to any business, no matter what it is you do, is personal relationship. You're always going to need someone's help. How do I do this? How do I do that? What can I do to escalate to the next level? Even if it's not help with the connection, it could be help with wisdom to take you to the next level and what it is you have to do with whatever it is that you're trying to do. You're always going to need someone's help. You never make it on your own, because the only way that you're going to escalate is by someone helping you to get to the next level. And that's how God gives you favor. And that's why I say, but how do you even know or care to know how God is helping you? And this is where people got it twisted. A lot of people in life, they chase the blessings of the world instead of the blesser first. And when you chase the blesser first and put God first, the blessings of the world, they come chasing you. You don't got to go chasing them. Because your father/creator knows what his son wants or daughter wants. And the more you get in that personal relationship with them, the more you start to trust them. And when you start to trust them, you start to love them. And when you fall in love with them, you find out that he loves you back, and that you guys are now building a career/life/everything together. And that's what I let people know, man. God is going to always make a way where you think there's no way. When God calls you, you may not be qualified at the time that he called you, but it qualifies you as you go on. And so people make it so hard. And I say, this is so simple. All you got to do is simply do what God tells you to do. But if you're not connected to God and you don't have a relationship with God, you can't hear from God to know what he's telling you to do. So every decision and choice, you did it your way instead of his way. And I always promise you that his way will always be better than the way that you thought it should go. And so that's what I tell the young people of today, is get in that personal relationship with God. Get to know him. Get to understand him. And as you start trusting him, guess what you'll do? You'll start letting him guide you on your journey. And I always say, I'd rather fight with God on my side than without God on my side, because it's an easier fight with God involved rather than without God involved. So that's what I tell the young people, bro. And there's a lot more to that. We'd have to do a part 2 podcast or something.
Yeah, let's
But right now, I'm just giving you some gold nuggets, some quick gold nuggets, some food for thought, just a few little daggers for you to think maybe differently than how you have been thinking already, to help and give you that push to hopefully start and do what it is you want to do. Because if I could do it, some street kid, I did 4 years, was facing 15 years. You heard my story. If I could do it, you could definitely do it. God is ready to use anybody who is willing. So if you're willing, God wants to use you and take you out of your mess to make a message. And I'll say this last thing, and I don't want to cut you off. I'll just say this one last thing. And I'll keep it super short. You know why a lot of us are not blessed in life? It's because we live out of order in our life. And God cannot bless disorder. We're all over the place and we're living the way we want to live. And we want the blessings from God. And God's saying, I can't bless disorder. So once you slowly start to put your life back into order, you'll start seeing the blessings come in. But I can't do it until we restructure your life and start fixing it a piece at a time. And as we start fixing your life a piece at a time, and your life is slowly getting back into order a piece at a time, you'll start seeing the blessings pour in. But I can't do it when you're living out of order and you want to be blessed. I can't bless disorder. And that's why a lot of us are in these struggles and battles, because we're living so wild and crazy and like a wildfire, but we want all these blessings. It doesn't work like that, because disorder cannot be blessed.
So what about those youth these days? Like, it's been so much harder for them coming up, and they don't know what to believe. Everything is being so polarized and politicized. You know, either you're this way or that way. Take a side. If you don't want to take a side, we'll put you on the side we think you belong to. What do you say to those people that are saying, you know what, Noel, like, I hear what you're saying. It makes sense. I just can't understand the thing I don't see, the spiritual thing that I don't see. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what's God? What do you say to those people?
Let me ask you a question. You got a best friend?
No. Yes.
You got a best. I was like, damn, man, we got.
Damn, interview's over.
I was gonna put rent a friend on the phone, bro. We're gonna rent a friend. No, but you got a best friend, real quick. Yes. What's his name or her name?
Emmanuel.
Emmanuel?
Yeah.
How long have you known him for?
We were baptized as infants on the same day, same place.
Gotcha. So how long have you known him for, though, would you say?
I would say for the last 16 years. Officially.
And would it be safe to say that you could trust him with pretty much anything?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. But the only way that you were able to trust him was after getting to know him, correct?
Exactly.
So that's the first thing that I say to people. Until you know God yourself, you'll never trust him, because you don't even know him to know if you could or can't trust him. One thing that you cannot deny is a transformed, changed life that has given the glory to God for that transformed, changed life. We all believe in wind. You believe in wind because you see the leaves on a tree move, you feel it in your face, but not one person in this world has ever seen wind in their life. You don't need to see God to know that he's real. He's real because he's in our heart, and because you have got into a relationship to trust him, to let him guide you. So I would always say and start with, just get to know him. And I'm going to give both of you a little food for thought right here. Just play in my sandbox for 1 minute or 2 minutes, if you guys will. I'm going to ask both of you guys this question. If you guys were home alone right now, and a guy comes and knocks on the door, and he says, hey, let me in. I want to take a shower and eat some of your food real quick. Are you going to let him in your home? You first.
Probably not.
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't let him in? Why not?
It's a stranger. You don't know who he is.
I don't know who he is. Yeah.
Exactly. So here's the point that I'm making. When you stand before God, heaven is his home. And you're going to say, let me into heaven, which is his home. And God's going to say, I don't know you. It's a personal relationship. So if you can't get into that personal relationship with God, when you ask to be let into his home, which is heaven, you're going to say, I don't know you. So you got to get in that personal relationship with God in order, period, for him to know you and you to know him. And how do you do that? You sacrifice time. And when you sacrifice time with someone, you build a bond with someone. And once that bond is built between the two, there's a perceptive bond now of who that person is. And that's how you decide whether or not you want to stay in that relationship with them or not. Because now you know who they really are. So I tell the kids, man, or anybody, kids or adults, that are old enough to have the knowledge to think for themselves, to know right from wrong and to know what real relationships are, et cetera, et cetera. Because kids were still teaching and they got to be groomed. So my point is, that's what I tell people. Get in that personal relationship with God. You don't need to see him to know that he's there. And how do you get to know him? You get to know him by reading the word of God, by going to church, by listening to other people who are serving God. And how do you know that they're real about God? Because their lifestyle proves that they're real about God. That's how you know someone is either real or fake about God. It's according to how they live and are living in their lifestyle. But the only way that you'll know if they're real about their lifestyle with God is if you know God yourself, to know what the lifestyle should and shouldn't be.
Right.
Did that help?
Oh, yeah.
I believe in a personal relationship with God. And the reason why I believe in a personal relationship with God, I don't believe in religion. I believe religion is, and this is just me once again. I never push my belief upon anyone else. You do you, and you do you, and you do you, and you do you. I'm talking for myself. I never push my belief upon someone else. I'm just giving my reasons of why I believe this way. I believe religion was created to divide, to separate, for greed, control. Religion feels like a system. If I can't keep up with the system, why am I doing this? And if I can't keep up, why am I doing it anyways? The reason why I believe in a personal relationship with God is because when I stand before God, when anyone stands before God, it's just going to be you and God, no one else. It's not going to be you and your brother. It's not going to be you and your best friend. It's not going to be you and mommy and daddy. It's not going to be you and a priest. It's going to be you all by yourself. And you're going to have to answer for yourself. And that's why, and I'm not mad, I just speak passionately, just so we're clear. But
Yeah.
and that's why I believe in a personal relationship with God. And so that's why I'm saying it's about a personal relationship. And that's what people have to get, because you're going to have your ups and downs. And one day you're going to feel like this and feel like that. And only God knows what you're going through. And so that's why I don't believe in religion. I believe in a personal relationship. So my whole point, if you can get in that personal relationship with God, you'll start to understand him more, which will start leading you to trust him more, which will start allowing you to start loving him. And what do you do when you start loving someone? You fall in love with them. And what do you do when you truly, genuinely love someone? You don't want to hurt who you really love. And that's how God keeps your life straight, because you can hide it from people all day long. But you could go in a dark closet. You could go in a room by yourself. You can't hide it from God. And that's how you know your life will get better and better and better, because you'll know that you're not only hurting yourself, but you're hurting someone you love. So it's not one people, it's two people. I could go on, bro, but like I said, don't get me started.
I wanted to ask, so on this topic about God, like we've heard it so many times when someone's receiving like an Oscar or some sort of award where they say, I want to thank God. And typically like those people, you know, from their fruit and their action, their lifestyle, that they may not necessarily mean, you know, the Christian God that we follow, right? And Jesus. Have you ever had any like interactions with people that, you know, claim to be, you know, followers of God, or even interactions with any Christians that are actors? And have you like spoken to them about, you know, what you believe in and why you believe in it, and anything like that from any actors that like people might know about? Because I know like Chris Pratt is like an open Christian, and he's often like said things, you know, on the red carpet about Jesus and things like that. So have you ever had any interactions like those?
Oh, more than you know, man. Don't give me one thing that Hollywood has showed me is that if you don't know someone personally, or you're not involved in the situation personally, excuse my French here, you don't know a damn thing, period. You really don't. All you know is what has been displayed or portrayed on Front Street. Unless you know the situation personally or know the guy personally, you really honestly don't know nothing, and you don't have nothing but an opinion. And all you get is what you saw and seen, and that's the bottom line, period. That's why I tell people, like, you know, in the Bible, it's very clear. In the Bible, it says that if you yourself don't know God, you can be deceived, manipulated, tricked. You won't be able to see the truth of God. And it talks about a lot of false prophets, people that are out there that will claim God, but are not really about God. And they'll be so slick because what does the devil do? He mixes lies with truth. And they can say it so cleverly, so strategically, that you could be like, oh my God, those are the most beautiful words in the world. That has to be God. But it really wasn't God. And if you don't know the truth of God, you can be deceived. You can be tricked and manipulated. And that's why I tell people, the bottom line is, you yourself got to know God. You yourself have to know what God is telling you. Because if you don't, you can fall into that net/trap, and you can believe in the man instead of God. My pastor said it best. My pastor said this. He said, with the times we're living in today, and the Bible is very clear. It talks about how the love will grow cold. I believe we're in the signs of the times. A lot of the things that are written in the Bible are manifesting today, and we're seeing a lot of it right in front of our own eyes, hearing a lot of it right in front of our own ears. And my pastor was very clear. He said, in the times that we're living in today, you're truly going to find out who are the saints from the ain'ts. And that's what I truly believe. And if you're a real one for God, then that's just the bottom line. You're a real one for God. And that's why we need to be a light in the dark. And I'm ready to lose a career because of the hypocrisy. There's hypocrisy, just to be clear, in any business. But because of the hypocrisy in Hollywood, I'm ready to lose a career because I just don't care that much anymore. And I live by something. I don't know how the scripture goes because I'm not one of those people who can, like, you know, Romans, you know, chapter 12, scripture 5-6. I'm not nothing against those people. That's awesome, you know. But what I was saying is, it's funny because I live by this. When the disciples were following Jesus to go share the good news of Jesus, and they were following him, one of the disciples asked Jesus, if we're traveling with you and we're sharing the good news and we're walking from here to here to here to here, how are we going to eat? Where are we going to sleep? And Jesus said to him, do you not know that God takes care of the birds in the air? And if God takes care of the birds in the air, he's going to take care of you that much more, meaning that we're more important than birds in the air. So if God is taking care of the birds in the air, we are going to be taken care of that much more by God than a bird. And I live by that. And that's why I really don't care when it comes down to it. We're going to find out, like my pastor said, who are truly the saints from the ain'ts, who are going to give in to the world, or who's going to live for heaven and live for God. And that's why you have to be connected to God yourself and know God so much yourself. Because when the poop hits the fan, you're going to have to really know what to do and what you're going to have to do in those times to live for God. And it's not going to be easy. It is very clear in the Bible that if you are claiming or mark yourself as a Christian, you are pretty much putting yourself out there for death, to be killed. But once you know who you're dying for, who cares? If I was willing to die for the streets and die for a gang, I don't care. I'll die for Jesus, because at the end of the day, I believe so hard and I know where I'm going, which is heaven. So as we trail along here, we'll find out who the real ones are and who the fake ones are or were. So to answer your question, I've seen a lot of people give it up to God and thank God. But remember, there's also another scripture that says, a lot of lips will be close to me, but their hearts will be far from me. A lot of people will claim God all day long, but not be about God all day long. And if you're really real about God, you'll know who the fakes are from the real ones. But if you yourself don't know God the way you're supposed to know God, a fake one could fool you, because you yourself didn't know God to know whether or not that person was fake or real about God.
I was going to add to what you're saying. It's like the whole idea. It's like you study lies and they can make more lies up. But if you study the truth, you'll know when the lie comes. It's actually a Christian artist who said that. I don't know if you heard of him, Bizzle.
I love that. Say that one more time.
He says, if you study the lies, they'll make more lies up. But if you study the truth, you'll know when the lies come.
I love it. I love it. That's beautiful. It's like,
I didn't make it. I didn't create it. It's just, but
yeah,
it's great.
no.
Yeah.
We need lies to cover up lies. And the
exactly.
truth, the reason why it doesn't need to be covered up is because it's the truth. And so I 100% agree, get it. And that's why I love podcasts like this and things like this, because iron sharpens iron. And when you hear great sayings like that, and maybe something that I might have gave you guys today is not nothing that I take credit for. It's stuff that I was taught in my life that I apply to my life. And so these are just things that I use because I'm like, oh, I like that. And it become a part of me. And that's how the knowledge spreads and hopefully gets more out there to bring more people to Christ, et cetera, et cetera. So I love what you said. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you just in the, like, to kind of wrap all of this up. Like we talked about so many different things, but I want to ask you a personal question. You obviously don't have to answer it, but I think it would be very valuable to the listeners. Based on what you went through with your family, there was a time, as you said, you hated your dad. You thought about certain things towards your dad and had certain feelings, but have you came to a point where you've forgiven your dad?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I seen my dad. When I'm 48, just so you guys know. I know you guys thought I was 27. I moisturize and I exfoliate the skin. You know, you got to keep it young and fresh.
I noticed.
Bro, when you came on the show and I saw you before we came on, I'm like,
I
was like, Hector?
I didn't know we were interviewing a teenager. What's up?
I was like expecting, oh my gosh. But no, that's great. Great genes. Great genes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no. I always tell people the trick to staying young, there's 3 tricks. No stress, no drink, and no smoking. And it'll keep you young and fresh 24/7. But I saw my dad for the first time in my life. My mom passed away about 4 or 5 years ago. And she wanted to end her life with my father because she was so used to him. So she brought him back one time to my place, and he just showed up at my doorstep, caught me off guard. But I didn't see my dad from the age of 13 years old all the way to the age of like 42 or 43, somewhere in there. I forget how old I was, but it was the first time seeing him from 13 years old to age like 42 or 43. So we're talking about close to 35 years, rounded off, give or take, right? And I'll be real, because all I do is keep it real, raw, and gritty, because that's the only way I know how to keep it. Sorry. But at first I wanted to beat him up, cuss him out, and throw him over a cliff. I didn't care. I wanted to hurt that man because I had so much hate in my heart for what he did. But as I got to know God and learn the ways of Jesus Christ, forgiving is everything. If you don't forgive, that could become a seed inside of you that becomes hate, that can make you lash out in ways that could turn your whole life around. You know, the reason why people kill people and are slamming doors and breaking windows and throwing stuff at people is because they have been talked out, winded out. I've said enough, I'm saying no more, and then it becomes some type of physical act. And that one wrong decision can turn their whole life around. Now they find themselves, you know, fighting for their life in court because they committed a murder or hurt someone so bad or, you know, whatever. So my point is, that's where I was at first. But as I learned the ways of forgiveness through Jesus Christ, and God made me more calm, more reserved, more understanding. I didn't react like that when I saw my dad. That was my first reaction and what the Noel G wanted to do. But instead, I decided to forgive him. And I wanted an understanding of why he did what he did. And me and my father had a conversation. And I forgave him. And it is what it was. And then after that, we talked a little bit. And then I went back to never seeing him again to this day. When my mom passed away, we haven't talked since then. I don't know if he's still alive or not. It's been in my heart to reach out. And I'm probably going to do that. Most likely will do that. But that's what happened with my father. I tell people, because the truth is, some of this stuff is private, but it's a personal question. I'm open to answering it because I believe it helps people. So I'm not a hidden book. I'm very open. The truth of it is, when I forgave my dad and we talked for a long time being about, 6-7 hours. We went out to eat. We had a good time. But when it got to the moment of, hey, Dad, let me ask you something. When you left me at that time, what were you thinking? What was going through your head? He explained his side of the story. We shared our lives with each other as much as we could to catch up. I asked him then and there, after sharing with him, I asked him then and there if he wanted to turn his life over to the Lord. And he said no. He told me, I believe what you're saying. It makes sense. It's never been explained to me like that before. I even remember my dad's reaction when I was telling him. He goes, now that I believe. That I believe. I never heard it like that, but that I believe. And I remember that. And I said, if you want, I said, we can turn your life over to the Lord here and now. We were in my living room. And my dad said, no. He said, nah, I don't want to do that. I'm not interested in that. And I said, okay. So all I could do is pray for him after that. You know what I mean? But my point is that I forgave him. And it wasn't for him. It was for me, but it was for him. It was for both of us. Because the worst thing that can ever happen is have someone who's close to you in your life and they pass away and you never have that closing conversation. And now you're left wondering, or you have to come up with your own answers because you never had that closing conversation. And I was lucky enough to have that closing conversation with my father, to know the why. And when you know that, it gives you more of a peace of mind than having to come up with your own conclusions. So, yeah, that's that. But yeah, to end the story and to be real quick, long story short, God has taught me how to forgive. And that was very hard for me in my life because I had a lot of anger growing up as a child for a lot of the things that happened to me. But later in life, as I grew up, and wisdom and et cetera, loving God and learning the word of God and getting to know God, I learned how to forgive and forget. So, yeah.
Love that.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Very
that.
powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want you guys to all connect with Noel on his Instagram. We're going to post that in the description. Maybe you could just give us the handle real quick.
Yeah, of course, man. If you guys want to keep up with me, follow me at Actor Noel G. Actor Noel G. That's where I could, I'm computer stupid. I don't know how to use a phone or a computer yet. I got rid of my BlackBerry 4 years ago.
That's a throwback.
No lie, no joke. I'm really, but it's funny because I just mastered Instagram, and then everyone's telling me Instagram's dead. Now it's all about TikTok. And I'm like, dang, man, now when I learn TikTok, they're going to come out with super duper TikTok. And then I'm going to have to learn that. And then when I learn super duper TikTok, they're going to come out with super expialidocious TikTok. And it's going to go on and on and on. And I'm just like, I can't keep up, man. Like, I can't, I stopped at Super Nintendo. One of the controls, the last game I ever played was Mario Kart. I kid you not. When the controls got too NASA, where there's like 30 buttons on a control, I was like, forget it. I'm out of here. So, long story short, if you want to keep up with me, man, keep up with me on the Instagram. As long as they don't kill that, that's where I'll be. But Actor Noel G, I love you guys, man. I thank you guys for having me on your podcast, for giving me the time and being able to share today. And, I learned something good from you. I like that live thing. And say it one more time, actually, real quick. One more time.
If you study the lies, then they'll make more lies up. If you study the truth, then you'll know when the lie comes.
I love it. I love that. And I'm going to have you email me that saying, but it's a good one. And that's what I love about, sharing, because you get to hear other people's experiences that can help you in your own journey, walk in life. I always tell people, and I'll end with this, I promise, and I'm done. If you wanted to get into real estate, just a small example, and you go get a real estate book and you read it, it's going to advance you that much more, because you won't have to make all the same mistakes that they did in their book that they're sharing. So you could be that much further in real estate and be ahead of the game. If you just read the book of Jesus, the Bible, I promise you, you will learn how not to make a lot of mistakes that you have probably been making in life that have held you back. Reading the Bible will propel and fast forward you so much more, and it will save you from a lot of heartache and a lot of mistakes that have probably been made or you have been still making to this day. And that's how Jesus helps you. The bottom line is, he's your father, your creator, and he just wants to be there for you. He wants to be a part of your choices, wants to be a part of your decisions. He wants to help guide you. And if you just allow him to do that in your life, I promise you, you'll have a better outcome than the one that you've probably been having without him in your life. So that's what I want to share. So I always say, God first, and the rest will work itself out. But yeah, man, thank you guys for having me on your podcast. I appreciate it. I love being here. Just 1,000 thank yous, and I thank you guys. I don't know what else to say. I'm pretty much tapped out. Unless
we appreciate it too, and we're gonna take this offline in just a minute. We're going to close off the show. Any last words from you, my brother?
Yeah, thank you so much, man. This is awesome. We loved hearing the stories and all the wisdom that you gave us. And if anyone that's listening, make sure to check us out again. And
like and subscribe. Yeah. I forgot to say it at the beginning.
Definitely gotta hit that thumbs button.
My team is going to keep giving me, for it. Like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. We want to hear from you guys. And until next time,
we're out.
We're out, ladies and gentlemen.
Audi 5000.